Life is pleasant. Death is peaceful. It's the transition that's troublesome. When stupidity is considered patriotism, it is unsafe to be intelligent. There is a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there has always been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread, winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. Maybe happiness is this: not feeling like you should be elsewhere doing something else, being someone else. People think of education as something that they can finish. The easiest way to solve a problem is to deny it exists. There are no nations. There is only humanity. And if we don't come to understand that right soon, there will be no nations because there will be no humanity. It has been my philosophy of life that difficulties vanish when faced boldly. So the universe is not quite as you thought it was. You'd better rearrange your beliefs then, because you certainly can't rearrange the universe. Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. Self-education is, I firmly believe, the only kind of education there is. The only function of a school is to make self-education easier. Failing that, it does nothing. The day you stop learning is the day you begin decaying. I don't believe in an afterlife, so I don't have to spend my whole life fearing hell, or fearing heaven even more. For whatever the tortures of hell, I think the boredom of heaven would be even worse. Properly read, the Bible is the most potent force for atheism ever conceived. Was there anything more exciting in life than seeking answers? In life, unlike chess, the game continues after checkmate. To make discoveries, you have to be curious about why the universe is the way it is. Life is a journey, but don't worry, you'll find a parking spot at the end. Science is uncertain. Theories are subject to revision. Observations are open to a variety of interpretations, and scientists quarrel amongst themselves. This is disillusioning for those untrained in the scientific method, who thus turn to the rigid certainty of the Bible instead. There is something comfortable about a view that allows for no deviation and that spares you the painful necessity of having to think. The saddest aspect of life right now is that science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom. They won't listen. Do you know why? Because they have certain fixed notions about the past. Any change would be blasphemy in their eyes, even if it were the truth. They don't want the truth. They want their traditions. People who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do. Imagine the people who believe such things and who are not ashamed to ignore totally all the patient findings of thinking minds through all the centuries since the Bible was written. And it is these ignorant people, the most uneducated, the most unimaginative, the most unthinking among us, who would make themselves the guides and leaders of us all, who would force their feeble and childish beliefs on us, who would invade our schools and libraries and homes. I personally resent it bitterly. Any book worth banning is a book worth reading. Increasingly, our leaders must deal with dangers that threaten the entire world, where an understanding of these dangers and the possible solutions depends on a good grasp of science. The ozone layer, the greenhouse effect, acid rain, questions of diet and heredity, all require scientific literacy. Can Americans choose the proper leaders and support the proper programs if they themselves are scientifically illiterate? The whole premise of democracy is that it is safe to leave important questions to the court of public opinion. But is it safe to leave them to the court of public ignorance? Democracy cannot survive overpopulation. Human dignity cannot survive it. Convenience and decency cannot survive it. As you put more and more people into the world, the value of life not only declines, but it disappears. It doesn't matter if someone dies. Uncertainty that comes from knowledge, knowing what you don't know, is different from uncertainty coming from ignorance. While he lives, he must think. While he thinks, he must dream. And above all things, never think that you're not good enough yourself. A man should never think that. My belief is that in life, people will take you at your own reckoning. The most exciting phrase to hear in science, the one that heralds new discoveries, is not eureka, but that's funny. I believe in evidence. I believe in observation, measurement, and reasoning, confirmed by independent observers. I'll believe anything, no matter how wild and ridiculous, if there is evidence for it. The wilder and more ridiculous something is, however, the firmer and more solid the evidence will have to be. Knowledge is indivisible. When people grow wise in one direction, they are sure to make it easier for themselves to grow wise in other directions as well. On the other hand, when they split up knowledge, concentrate on their own field, and scorn and ignore other fields, they grow less wise, even in their own field. I am not a speed reader. I am a speed understander. There are no happy endings in history, only crisis points that pass. There is no belief, however foolish, that will not gather its faithful adherents, who will defend it to the death. If knowledge can create problems, it is not through ignorance that we can solve them. There is a single light of science, and to brighten it anywhere is to brighten it everywhere.